and welcome to episode 163 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam,
I'm Sahil.
and we had a very interesting week in the league. A lot of upsets, a lot of near upsets, really, mostly near upsets. And we saw something that we've never seen before and may never see again.
Yeah, God, that was so wild. Um,
Yeah, we'll talk. Me and Alex tied whip. We both had the exact same whip. We pitched 60.2 innings each. Um, we six yeah 60.2 innings each. I allowed 63 hits and 25 walks. He allowed 64 hits and 24 walks. So the hits and walks were almost exactly the same too.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
in 60.2 innings. I would like to thank Hector Neris for getting a 1-out save on Sunday. That won me the matchup. um, that was what the difference was. Just we're never gonna see that again. That's just wildly unlikely. Um, but yeah, you and I tied on base percentage apparently once, but that was just a .33 repeating in 2018. But yeah, just crazy. I don't think we're appreciating this enough.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, what, it took 6.5 years for that to happen, um, in the first place. And then, I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong. And it's funny. I mean, obviously, this won't affect the matchup because ESPN locks it after the Sunday. But like it's so easy for there to just be like a stat change, right? That just like, completely changes the outcome of the matchup. Or just even on a smaller scale, right? It's just changing the whip so that it's different. I mean, there's so many little things that just like go into this. So I mean, I um just wow.
Yeah, and so
Uh
many bad call strikes or bad call balls that would have caused a walk or prevented a walk that didn't that could have flipped the matchup. So it's or flipped the matchup, flipped whip. Um,
and
yeah.
what's crazy to me too is it's not one of those things that has a dramatic build up or it's like so like for example in my matchup with Yuki like runs was close the entire time and it kind of came down to the end there. Um but like it's a round whole number and you know how a run is going to be scored, right? So and you know what the effect of that's going to be. So that's relatively easy to track. This is just all of a sudden you look down and you're like, holy shit, whip is tied with like no warning whatsoever. Um, and then you just kind of have to go through and figure out like, okay, like what's going to happen here. I think what's crazy too is that you had Clay Holmes in that 7 o'clock game. And I mean, your matchup was, I mean, tied. Um, and if he had come in, like he could have easily one way or the other, like flipped the matchup. Which happened the other way with OBP in the Ruthvik Anthony matchup, which I think was absolutely wild with Yoshida. But um, let's get into that one while we discuss the matchup itself.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a minute. We also, after this, got Erik on to do our fourth annual Prospects to Watch segment. Always a great time. Thank you, Erik, for coming on. Um, but before we get into any of that, we had a trade just mere hours before we press record.
Yeah, I make a really big blockbuster here that I'm particularly excited about. Um, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get the Anthony his typical like I'm happy for you or like sad for you like whatever that GIF react is, but I'll certainly take the trade as a consolation prize. So I traded Braxton Garrett, Luke Keschel, DJ Hers, Anthony's 2025 first round pick, Anthony's 2026 first round pick, Yuki's 2026 second round pick and Alex and Zach's 2026 second round pick for Jared Jones and Orion Kirkering. And there's also a conditional pick based on whether or not Anthony's first round picks are lottery picks. So if one of them is a lottery pick, I owe Conor an additional second. If none of them are lottery picks, I owe Conor an additional first. And if both of them are lottery picks, I don't owe Conor anything else. So from my perspective, I'm a huge fan of Jared Jones. I've seen a lot of the comparisons of Spencer Strider, and I certainly buy those. I missed out on Spencer Strider the first time. I I think Jones is just a very unique pitching talent. I mean, if you look across the board, even with a little bit of a dip in June, I mean, his numbers are still lead across the board. His swinging strike percentage is first in the league. He's got one of the fastest fastballs in the league, 97.3 miles per average. His CSW percentage is 14th in the league, 31.6. I just like and I think he is truly gonna be an ace. I think he's certainly at least a top 20 dynasty starting pitcher for me. A lot of people that, I whose work I kind of take into account when making decisions, have him ranked even higher. I've seen a couple of people rank him above Max Fried. I've seen some people rank him at the same level as Yamamoto. Um, I'm all in on Jared Jones, and I'm really excited to get him. Also excited to get Kerkering back. I never really wanted to move him in the Ortiz deal, and I think a part of me thought that maybe I shouldn't have come in strong offering him in that Ortiz deal in the first place. I didn't know if I necessarily needed to include him. But as someone who's kind of going all in on holds now, I'm really excited. So I know Jones is dealing with a little bit of a minor lat injury. I'll add that. I'm not particularly concerned about it. And I think he's going to land on the IL, or he is in the IL. He'll get a little bit of rest. I think he'll be fine down the stretch. So I expect him to contribute. In terms of what I gave up, I like Braxton Garrett. I think he's a fine starting pitcher. I think there are a lot of people who are kind of down on him, just because they don't really buy the pitch mix that he has. He's kind of a two-pitch pitcher without really overwhelming stuff. And I'm starting to think about I'm starting to sour on him a little bit after reading all this, and it kind of gave me comps to like Brady Singer in terms of somebody who has kind of an elite walk rate, but just doesn't really have the stuff to kind of, consistently sustain a solid, kind of steady level of production. And in a short time, Garrett has pitched this year when he's healthy. You've kind of seen the ups and downs with him accordingly. The health is the other big thing. He has dealt with both a left shoulder and left elbow injury this year. He's currently on the IL. I'm not 100% convinced he's going to pitch again this year, so I don't think he has a ton of value. So I was fine kind of moving off of him, clearing that IL space. I just picked up DJ Hers. I mean, I didn't realistically think he was going to do anything for my team. I threw him for Conor. Yeah, I kind of threw him in at the end there. Luke Keschel is quickly risen up prospect list. He's top 50 in Baseball America, top 50 in some of the dynasty prospect lists that I use, but um, I don't necessarily view him as somebody who's going to jump and be like a top 10 prospect or top 20 prospect. I think he's going to kind of settle around this range. I certainly think he could be a solid bat, but he's not really someone I think is going to necessarily develop the power necessary to become like an elite guy that I'm going to miss out on. Um, the picks wise, um, so Connor liked the structure of the deal, but was a little hesitant initially because he didn't think Anthony's picks were going to be lottery picks. And for me, I think they are going to be lottery. I think there's a potential they're going to be lottery picks, at least one of them. with all the competition up top. So if I have to add an extra second, great. If I do have to add an extra first, it's not the end of the world for me. It does mean that those two Anthony picks weren't lottery picks, and I can deal with that as it comes. But um, I didn't really have a problem giving up either those Anthony first round picks or giving up those two second round picks. Um, I thought it was pretty good value for me. I mean, I think this is a top 50 dynasty asset at the age of 22, who I expect to contribute for many years. Um, and I don't, I think I paid a fair price for him. If somebody wants to say I paid a premium for him, I'm fine with them thinking that, especially because I think to kind of get a 22-year-old who looks like a future stud, you gotta pay up. But um, I think I paid an appropriate market price, although I am aware that him being a 22-year-old pitcher, maybe there is a little bit more risk than, uh, you know, acquiring a hitter of that age. From Conor's perspective, he was not one player away. I think Jared Jones could have been a great building block, uh, but he's a great building block. He's a better building block for a team, say, like an Alex, whose major league team is not doing well, but his farm system is like loaded with prospects. Um, and he has a lot of draft picks. Conor does not have either. He does not own a first round pick this year. So I think for him to accumulate some of these assets, I think he did a really good job of being able to extract a lot of value from me. I'll also say that I feel like I was playing with house money a little bit because I feel like I wasn't expecting to get those two first round picks from Anthony. And so for me, it's like this is just kind of some fun extra money I lucked into. Let me see how I can go and spend it. So um, it didn't feel like that big of a deal for me to give those picks up, knowing that I didn't have them. I wasn't going to have them in the first place. And um, I think I laid it out. I turned Sonny Gray, Braxton Garrett, Luke Keschel, Ben Rice, who I traded to get one of the second round picks, and then the other second round pick for Bailey Obert, Jared Jones, and Orion Kerkering. And that's a trade I make 10 times out of 10 without thinking. So I feel like I've definitely improved my team over the last couple weeks. It's gotten younger, gotten some more excited pieces in here, and I'm excited to see how it develops. Both in the short term for this year, and if things don't quite work out this year, I think it helps me have a brighter future ahead. Part of this youth movement, but that I've been trying to make while also trying to keep my team competitive. So.
Yeah, so that was a near uh uh yeah, near Kevin Biggio length rant, I would say. That was a long one. Is Keschel is how we're pronouncing that?
Yeah, it's casual.
Okay. I've been saying Keeschal, so Keschel sounds better.
I
You know,
forget who I heard say it, but somebody said it out loud. It's casual. Yeah.
yeah, I think there's not really much else to say about this. Um, I kind of like Jake's response. Um, it, it, it's a good, yeah, Jared Jones is good, but this could vary, and this could be very good for you. It could also very easily turn kind of disastrous for you if, say, you're giving up like three first rounders, and if Keschel kind of finds a position and gets a little bit of power, and if Braxton Garrett pitches more like he did last year, which I think his peripherals look identical to last year, he's just kind of getting unlucky this year. I think he's I still believe in him as like a 3.8 ERA guy, 3.7, 3.8. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Good for Conor for getting a good return and kind of getting that, you know, lottery protection on these picks. And there's DJ Hers is nothing, but yeah, getting those picks, potential plus two second rounders, potential for another first and a second. Um, so yeah, the Connors, next team is gonna be one he built the draft, and he built. He had a really great draft class this past year. At the time we were kind of talking, yeah, Teal's a great get in the second round, but Dollander's kind of a reach uh, at the spot. He took him 13. But meanwhile, Dollander has been spectacular this year. Easily well earned uh, pick there, and Teal's been very good. Jacob Wilson, I was kind of down on. The league was kind of down on, but he's already in AAA and he's hitting really well. So maybe the fantasy upside's a bit thin, but Jacob Wilson turned into a great pick. Looking at his 2023 draft, um, only a couple picks, nothing really exciting there. 2022, he got Colson Montgomery in the second round, late second. So Connor's had some good drafts for sure. Some less good drafts as well. If he drafts like he did in 2024 with these picks, then he's gonna have a very interesting team. I think the farm is kind of thin as it is, so getting this will be helpful. And as nice as it would be to hold on to Jared Jones, I get it. And this is something Connor has kind of done. He traded Juan Soto right shortly after he got called up, and then he traded Tatis shortly after he got called up. So it's something Connor's done, and that got him to a finals before. And he's just gotta draft well and find some more guys like Jones.
Exactly. And I think, this is where it makes sense for both sides. He needs that volume, right? Whereas, I've kind of built um the team already that I like, that I think can compete for a championship, and now it's just about adding a little more fire to that. Or adding a little more fuel. I don't know what the saying is. Fire to the fuel, fuel to the fire. I don't know. Just adding a little more to that. And, um, I kind of had the position, I was in a position here to kind of take a high upside swing. Um, and, it's great to kind of take some more calculated moves, which, I'm obviously not making this without, not really considering all the options and kind of considering the upside and the downside. But at the same time, I think sometimes you just kind of have to go for it and just kind of push your chips in a bit, and see if, kind of if there's a young piece that you could go and acquire that could really be a difference maker. And, um, I have no problems here kind of being a little more aggressive, but I also get why, because of Connor's roster construction, it's the opposite. So
Yeah, it definitely was a swing for you. We will see if it turns out to have been a good one.
absolutely. Yeah,
Right. Do we want to get into these matchups?
yeah, that's exactly what I was about to propose.
Right. And we had hinted that we want to talk about Ruthvik v. Anthony. That one had a wild ending. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, so Ruthvik was leading most of the week, and it looked like Anthony was just gonna lose. And then all of a sudden, you look up and it's like it's actually kind of close. And then Anthony had a really good 7 o'clock game. Ceddane Rafaela hit a home run. And that flipped homers and ribbies, which were both tied. And all of a sudden, like, Ruthvik, because of Rafaela, had to keep in Masataka Yoshida. And Yoshida and Tyler O'Neill, who on a combined 0 for 8, so that kind of made OBP a bit of a mess for him. And it wouldn't have been an issue for Ruthvik if Rafaela didn't hit the home run, but Rafaela hit the home run, I think it was in like the eighth inning. And then it was like, hey, Yoshida might get an at bat in the ninth, and that at bat is going to determine whether Ruthvik won or tied. But then Devers hit a home run in the ninth, which guaranteed that Yoshida batted. And Yoshida, I think, like, grounded out. He made some sort of out to end the inning, and that was enough to flip it. So instead, they tied. some really big implications there. I mean, Anthony with the loss sort of dropped all the way to the 6th seed. Um, Instead, he sticks as the 4th seed. I wonder if it would have maybe made it slightly easier for Conor to accept the trade without any conditions. I'd be kind of curious. Or I don't know if we'll ever figure out the answer, but just kind of as an aside. Um, and then for Ruthvik, I mean, he was totally prepared to jump up and take that 4th seed, but it'd only be a game back of first place. But instead, he remains a game and a half back, and tied with Andrew for the 6th seed or the 5th seed, although I believe Ruthvik has the tiebreaker over Andrew.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, kind of devastating for Ruthvik. He's got 4 ties now. I just
Two
crazy
straight ties too. Uh,
2 straight ties.
two teams have now tied twice in a row.
Now that is crazy. Yeah, and Anthony's got that 8-4-3 record. He remains in that fourth place. Looking at Ruthvik's team, um, I mean Christian Walker was just the standout. 11 RBI, 5 homers, 9 runs, 467 on base. Ruthvik didn't have a particularly great, or he had a good hitting week. He just didn't win many hitting categories. This was very nearly a pitcher of the hitter tie. If one category was slightly different in either direction. Christian Walker did have just a stellar week for Ruthvik. Pitching wise, he got 4 quality starts. A great start from Michael Wacha. Very great start from Nick Pivetta. Um, as for Anthony's team, standout bats. Yeah, Spencer Steer had a really good week, hitting 3 homers, scoring 6 times, hitting 2 doubles as well. Good week for Jesse Winker, who had a 522 OBP and scored 8 times, hit 6 doubles. Big doubles week for Jesse Winker, big doubles week for Anthony, who didn't pitch particularly well. Neither team pitched great. Both teams hit solidly. Yeah, Anthony's pitchers. I mean, he got a great performance from Luis Ortiz, but other than that, not a whole lot to write home about. I think the best player on either side was Christian Walker, though. So he's our matchup MVP.
Yeah, no, agree with all that. I think what well deserved the matchup MVP, and yeah, this one was a crazy one.
Yeah,
Um,
no, we love
uh,
ties.
yeah, we love ties. Speaking of crazy matchups, I mean, yeah, unless there's anything else here, I know we kind of talked about it already, but I kind of wanted to dive back into you and Alex a little bit here. I mean, I mean, it really looked like to me that you were going to lose for a good chunk of the week. Um, and then all of a sudden, you kind of, I don't know, you flipped it on Sunday and it looked like you were gonna win for a hot second. And then I was like, well, okay, like Alex has all these players going on Sunday night. He can score a couple of rounds, no issues at all. And then I was like, wait, but Cam has Soto and Judge. Um, as it stood, Soto and Judge did not score as the Yankees got shut out. Soto had a double, but doubles was already decided at that point, or mostly decided. You had the lead going into that Sunday night game. And Alex is the one who got like a big game from Rafael Devers there at the end that really just put him over the top. Um, and what was really an impressive offensive week for him. I mean, 15 homers, 52 ribbies, 8 steals will certainly take that. Not really a great pitching week, but hey, he did just enough to pull off a tie against you. I mean, you were coming off just dominant win against me last week. Started off last week super slow. I think at one point on Wednesday you had 6 RBIs, and I think I blinked last Monday and you had like 12 just in like the first hour of the first day or something like that. So I mean, completely opposite week for you, but I mean you did good and gotten out a tie here. So I'll let you kind of dig deeper into it, but those are my initial thoughts.
You know, it was. a really, really garbage week by my team. Um, but you've been saying all season good teams find a way to pull something out. Um, and I was able to, thanks to my starting pitching streaming, 7 1 earned run innings from Sean Manaea with 5 Ks, and 6 innings, 1 earned run, 3 Ks from Jonathan Cannon. And that was enough to win me strikeouts. That was enough to win me quality starts, and that was enough to tie me this matchup. In Those were really my only two good pitching performances of the whole week. Paul Sewald was just awful, awful in 2 appearances. Sam Maul got blown up as a streamer. Tanner Houck had a weird game where he only pitched 3 1/3 and pitched okay, but walked a lot of guys. Um, all of my other starters were bad except for Wheeler. Um, and I stole 9 bases somehow. I don't know how I did it. I guess Zach Neto had 3 bases stolen and Nimmo stole a couple. And James Wood, who's on my roster now, um, had just a really great first week in the majors. Stole a base, drove in 6 runs, 452 OBP. So a great week there for him, but otherwise just a really lousy week. And I was lucky to be able to pull out a tie. And I was expecting to lose. So getting the tie, seeing Erik lose, seeing Ruthvik and Anthony tie, it puts me in first place. I'm not going to complain too much. If I can say that my big offensive output doesn't mean anything because it's not September, then I think I can say that this doesn't mean too much either. With the caveat that I've really got to do something about my ERA. I've had like 6 weeks in a row with an ERA like pushing 5. Um, but yeah, talking about some individual performance, talked about James Wood. Great week from Wilson Contreras for me as well. He would have been matchup MVP if I won. He also stole a base. Um, Looking at Anthony's team, I know you want to talk about Ben Rice, so I'll let you talk about him in a second here. Had a great performance. Good week for Brooks Lee, driving in 6 runs. Pitching wise, not a whole lot either for Alex. He got an okay start from Miles Michaelis. That's really all that there is. Matchup MVP though, as much as you wanted me to give it to Ben Rice, Rafi Devers just had a better week. Had one fewer homer, but drove in the same number of runs. Had a 483 OBP. Scored 7 times and also stole a base himself. So matchup MVP for Devers. Decent week for Alex on the whole. And he's got to feel good that he pulled out the tie against me.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I agree with everything that you said. The Ben Rice, um, God, I mean, I didn't think he was going to be this good when he came up, and for his 3 home runs and 7 ribbies on Saturday to cost you a potential win is beautiful to me. So, um, I love it. If Ben Rice turns out to be really good, and my only real reward from that, besides that second round pick, is knowing that it cost you a win, totally worth it. Also, speaking of catchers, kind of interesting, Andrew coming out pretty strong in the chat about the Jared Jones trade, saying, been waiting for an egregious Sahil overpay since the Will Smith deal, and here we are, gents, 4 years later. Yeah. Uh, I very much disagree with that, but certainly interesting to see that reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had kind of a gamut of reactions. No one is really thinking that you ripped Conor off. But yeah, I guess Andrew's not big into Jared Jones.
That's fine. I think I paid full value for Jared Jones, but a fair value, and I'll stand by that.
All right. But yes, anything else on my matchup before we talk about some of these others?
No, no.
talk about Jake versus Erik. Jake last week we declared him cooked. And this week he comes out, puts together a really solid week, and comes away with an upset that a lot of us in the league, myself included, were pretty grateful for.
Yeah, certainly grateful for it. I owe Jake an apology, certainly, for saying that he was cooked, but I mean, this looked like a vintage Jake week from last season. Um, he actually tied the quality start record with 10. Um,
Yeah, we that wasn't really talked about much, but yeah, 10 quality starts. I have never seen Jake's team pitch this well, frankly.
no, 233 ERA, .88 whip. I don't think either of those were records. I know the ERA is not a record. What is a .88 whip a record for him or
I don't believe so.
uh no, he's at a .794 a week. 44 runs, 17 doubles, 11 homers, 50 ribbies, 322 OBP, which interestingly, as we've been talking about all these close categories, which I think has really been the theme of the week, both Erik and Jake had 322 OBPs. Unlike the Ruthvik Anthony matchup, where that difference in like less than an OBP point flipped the matchup. Erik winning OBP still put him down a category from tying, so that didn't have much of an effect on anything. But yeah, just Erik pitched very well, but I mean, Jake just had like just a godly week. This is one of those weeks where Erik kind of got unlucky. Erik would probably wins this matchup 9 times out of 10. He had a great hitting week. 17 steals was the third most steals all time in a week. Um, Erik did not set his steals record. Actually, he also owns the second highest steal week with 18. But man, I mean, just Jake. This is like the second or third time this year that Erik's had like just like an awesome week that would have beaten pretty much anybody else, but he still took the L. Um, yeah, it's just kind of a bummer for him. But I'm certainly happy for the rest of us that he lost. So, a rare
Yeah,
time.
no, tough. Yeah, tough luck for Erik. Um, some good performances. I mean, yeah, all those steals. He got four from Lane Thomas, four from Otani, plus three from Ellie. And then yeah, some other guys got some more. Yeah, pitching wise, he had a solid week from George Kirby, great start from Hunter Green, who's having a good season. Um, Jake's team though got the win, hit really well. George Springer, a bit of a bounce back week, and a not so great season. Looking yeah down. Michael Bush has been really solid. Yordan Alvarez, just a vintage Yordan week. Hitting three homers, 538 on base percentage, nine ribbies. This is the pitching though where he shined. Two quality starts for Nathan Eovaldi and two quality starts for matchup MVP Cutter Crawford, who is getting his second matchup MVP of the season. Yeah, 13 innings, allowed just one run, didn't walk a guy, 054 whip, 11 strikeouts. Just a really, really solid week. Just kind of the best of a great bunch of pitchers that included Eovaldi, great Albert Suarez, Brian made a good start. Um, Jose Quintana made a good start. So a lot just really came together for Jake this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've certainly seen the upside with this team in weeks like this. And, if he can, be more consistent, yeah, obviously he doesn't need to put up a week like this every week, but if he can, be a bit more consistent and being an above average performer, if he can get some of these guys back healthy, maybe he can make a late season push here. I'm not counting on it per se, but I think this is proof that, we shouldn't be counting him out, especially with his schedule getting easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you really never know. He's currently eighth, but we will see where he ends up. You ready to talk about your matchup? I predicted a 6-4-2 win for you, and it was a 7-5 win for you.
Yeah, and I predicted a Yuki win, and it was looking pretty close to a Yuki win for most of the weeks, or towards the end there. Um, I had a fantastic week other than the fact that the ERA and WHIP were high, and I think I led the league in like four or five of the categories. But it came down to the last day. It really came down to runs in OBP. Whoever won both of those categories would win. If we each won one category, we'd split or we tie. But I won both categories, so I won. But it was so painful to watch yesterday because I think we both entered the day like with like 51 runs or let me see if I can pull it up. I entered the day with 50 and Yuki entered with 51. And both of our offenses just had absolute garbage days for the most part. And like our OBPs for most of the day were like 0.001 apart. And every time one of us would get an at bat, like that would keep flipping. And then neither of us could get a runner past like second base. But thank God for good old friend Christian Yelich. He hit a two-run home run off of Justin Robelski, Yellow Champ legend. And once he did that, I never relinquished the lead and was ultimately able to pull out the 7-5 win. I'd also like to use this platform to give a shout out to just Christian Yelich's season as a whole, which I don't feel like enough people are talking about. Do you want to guess what his WRC plus is on the season, Cam?
130.
It is 164.
I did not know that.
Yeah, this is so to put that in context, when he won the MVP in 2018, his WRC plus was 167. Um, and it was 174 the year after that. So I mean, he is just dominating right now. He's been dominating all year, and yeah, it is good to see him healthy and playing well. Uh, Batting third every day in the middle of that Brewers lineup. So, um, yeah, I'm happy for him. But yeah, he's really keeping this team afloat 2018, 2019 style. So, it's been fun to see. But as for Yuki, very good week as well. Especially in the pitching side, although he had a couple of pitching performances late in the week that drove the ERA and whip up and kind of made it competitive on the last day. Um, but just ultimately came up short. But I know there's several teams that he would have beat, including both you and Alex. So um, he, like Erik, kind of drew the short end of the stick a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yuki tends to hit a lot of doubles, I feel like. And this week was no exception. 24 doubles, including three from Gabby Moreno, a couple from Brandon Lau, who had a good week. Austin Riley, solid week too. Pitching wise, just kind of a mess for both of you. Um, you for you, Dylan Cease kind of summed up your whole week. 13 Ks and a quality start, but also a 7.59 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP. You also streamed Sean Manaea. Um, we both had a we both streamed a good start from Sean Manaea. Funny enough. Um, you actually streamed a better start from Sean Manaea than I did. Um, but he's on waivers now for someone to pick up his next start. Not sure who he's facing next. Yeah, it looks like it's against the Rockies, so we'll see about that. Someone will probably have him on the roster then as well. Looking at your team, uh, great week for Trey Turner. Great week for Yelich, like you had said. I'll leave it up to you, Turner or Yelich for MVP.
I was thinking you were gonna boil it down to that. I think they posted pretty comparable weeks, but I think Yelich's just overall clutchness on Sunday probably means that you have to hand it to him.
Cool. Let's give it to Christian Yelich. That is his second matchup MVP. First one since week 6 of last year. And yeah, great week. He had a 469 on base. Scored 8 times. Him and Turner both stole base. Can't really go wrong with either of them.
Absolutely. It's been great to have Trey Turner back, healthy and playing well, as well. Giving him a little mini shout out here. Since that like round of applause or standing ovation that they gave him last August, I mean, he has still been on a complete tear. Obviously, the hamstring injury wrapped him of 6 weeks, so the counting stats aren't as high, but um I mean, he's got a 149 WRC plus this year. He's been awesome. So, certainly no complaints about my shortstop situation with him. And I will say, kind of in a bigger picture here, um, I really needed this win. A loss sort of dropped me a game and a half back of a playoff spot. Would have put me tied with Jake. Um, And that would have been a really big hole to climb out of. This now puts me a half game back of a playoff spot. And the teams that are a half game above me, um, both are losing the tiebreaker to me. And actually, I play one of them this week. So, Andrew. So, um, I mean, that was just an absolute much needed win. Um, and it's crazy to me because I feel like I've been on the losing end of some of these really close matchups this year. And it was nice to finally steal one.
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely a much needed win for you. It could have really made the rest of your season tougher if you lost to Yuki, but here you are. Speaking of teams who narrowly pulled out a victory, avoided the upset, EBO proves to 10-4-1, share of first place with a win over the Drury that kind of came down to the last day as well. That one had some chatter in the Slack.
Yeah, this if I feel like I'm losing all the close matchups, it feels like Zane's winning all the close matchups. Um, that OBP was really close, 337 versus 332. They had one more steal was just enough. I mean, Daniel and Matt were actually leading this matchup going into the day. They kind of had what I call a little just efficient week pitching wise, where like they were able to win 3 of the 6 categories without really lifting a finger pitching wise. So they were able to get a holds, ERA, and whip. EBO didn't have a bad pitching week by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, a 382 ERA, 118 whip is solid, not amazing. Just but and usually when you're playing Daniel and Matt, I feel like you can kind of maybe count on winning a couple more of those pitching categories, just given that lack of quantity that they own. But credit to them, they kept it close. They split those pitching categories, and it was really the hitting that was the difference for EBO, albeit those categories were really close. And I mean, hey, we're talking maybe Daniel and Mack at a steal instead of EBO. Maybe a couple of bats go differently, and we're having a very different discussion right now. So I know they still haven't won a game yet. I'm hoping for their sake they win a game, but they are certainly putting in a good fight here. Daniel and Matt are so. Um, Even at 0-13 and 2. I don't believe we've had a winless team in league history. So um, hopefully they don't go winless.
Let's hope not. Yeah, they definitely put up a good fight and using 4 ads. The pitching rate stats were great. They got 4 holds. Um, they got a uh, really great start from Tyler Anderson, who's been kind of a rock in that rotation for the last couple months. Michael Lorenzen pitched well. Drew Thorpe pitched well. So he's up. That could be a good name for them going forward. Yeah, as for EBO, they pulled this one out on the last day. I know Zane was kind of chatting us through this. Uh, but they did enough to get the win. They got 92 Ks. So pretty good there. Um, Kenzie Gore had 13 of them. Tarek Skubal is Just an absurd week, 20 Ks in 13 innings, 2.77 ERA, 0.62 WHIP. Um, they also, got a couple of saves from Class A. On the hitting side, yeah, not a ton of standouts. Good week for Colt Keith, who homered 3 times, stole a base. Uh, Good week for CJ Abrams, who drove in 4 runs with a 441 on base. I am going to give matchup MVP though to Scuba for those 20 Ks. And as Zane said in the chat, they have now got they've won 10 matchups this year. They won 9 matchups combined the previous 2 years, and it's only July 7th. So congrats to this team. They just putting together a great season. They could be pushing for the bye, which they had not gotten since 2020. They haven't even made the playoffs since 2021.
Yeah, no, good for EBO. Certainly, I think that the league is, I think, better off when Zane is doing well and he's engaged in the chat and they're fighting the good fights. So this is certainly fun to see, and it is certainly bringing back some of that kind of adrenaline and what's the word? Kind of competitiveness and real just strong desire to beat EVO that I feel like it's been lacking the past couple of years just because they haven't been doing well. He's it's almost like he's kind of in the Jake replacement for me this year in terms of a team that I really just want to see lose each and every week, which is like the highest compliment that I can pay to a team. So
See, I'm rooting for them to match me because I've got the tiebreaker over them. Yeah, would love to continue being tied with them in the standings. But yes, yeah, definitely a very fun league when EBO's engaged, and that they certainly are. And Sully's back in the chat too, so they got 2 engaged owners.
no, absolutely. Good to have him back.
All right, so that's 5 competitive matchups. That's 5 matchups decided by a total of 3 categories. Um, and then there was this final matchup. Andrew beat Conor 10-1 to 1. Not a whole lot to say. Andrew had a very good week. Conor had a bad week. A lot of the hitting categories were kind of close. Like Conor could have won doubles, he could have won homers, could have won steals and made it a little interesting. But Conor just kind of had extra bad pitching week. And Andrew did enough to have a very comfortable win.
Yeah, I don't really have any comments. I think like you said, decent hitting week for Connor, but not enough to beat Andrew there, and then Andrew just dominated him pitching wise. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add.
No, I just want to give some shout outs. Great week for Ian Happ, 478 OBP, 8 ribbies, a couple of homers, a couple of doubles. Good week for Brian Reynolds. Good week for Bobby Witt Jr., who scored 7 runs, drove in 7, hit 3 homers. Good week for catcher Will Smith, homered 4 times. Pitching side, I think I'll give matchup MVP to Grayson Rodriguez. Yeah, just because he had the 2 quality starts, 16 Ks with a 2.19 ERA and a 105 WHIP. Just a big quality start week and a lot of Ks. And exciting to see him pitching well. I feel like I don't hear much about Grayson Rodriguez, but he's made 3 quality starts in a row. He's got a 3.52 ERA, having a really really nice season.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like even like Orioles fans are not talking as much about Grayson Rodriguez. I feel like all the focus has been on Corbin Burns and Craig Kimbrell and the bats. Um, so yeah, I mean he's been having a really nice season. And good to see Andrew kind of bounce back here with a good win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, yeah, not really a whole lot to say. Good week for Andrew. He's still in one of those playoff spots here as that 6th seed. He's 9-6. He's kind of rebounded from a tough middle of the season after a great start.
Yeah. Anything else on this matchup? Because if not, I think this dovetails perfectly into our matchups to watch segment.
Yeah, is it gonna be him versus Ruthvik?
or him versus me. Um,
Him versus. Oh yes, yeah, him
six
versus
v
you.
seven. The
Yes, 6v7.
winner has a playoff spot. Loser drops out of the playoffs. Uh, so a lot at stake here. I beat Andrew earlier this year, so another win over him would be huge for tiebreaker purposes. Um, the only other top eight v top eight matchup is you versus Anthony, which I think obviously you have EVO and Eric kind of breathing down your neck at the top there, so a win for you is important. And then from Anthony's perspective, if he wants to keep up with that group, stay uh kind of atop there, he needs to beat you. A win for him would put you two in a tie record wise. Did you play earlier this season, or is this your first matchup?
This is my first matchup with Anthony, so definitely uh could be interesting if Anthony can, pull off a win or two against me down the stretch. I would put him in very good position to be challenging for a top four team. And if he cannot, then he might be just kind of on the outside looking in or in that 5-6 spot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think yeah, I think this is going to be really pivotal. I mean, these are all pivotal weeks, right? You have the top seven teams are um um separated by 2 games. So literally, I mean, I just talked about at the beginning how Masataka Yoshida prevented Anthony from dropping from 4 to 6, right? And now he has the opportunity to jump from 4 to maybe even into a bye, right? I haven't run through all those scenarios at the top, but it certainly could be that way. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be fun. As a matter of fact, I mean, if EBO and Eric, neither of them have particularly tough matchups, but so if they both win and Anthony beats you, you could drop all the way from 1 to 4.
Yeah, so that would be a lot at stake here all throughout, and as there always will be when standings are this tight.
Absolutely. Yeah. One other interesting wrinkle to this week is that it is a 2 week matchup. So we have the full week, then we have the All-Star break, and then there's like 3 to 4 days left of games. So we have 11 ads this week, and we can use 17 starting pitchers. And I know that's always kind of tough to manage because, especially in the pitcher side, because you don't know who's going to get a start coming out of the All-Star break, and one that might line up. So, how many starts do you use before the All-Star break? Who do you think is going to get a start after the All-Star break and when? And just, playing the matchups there, it can get kind of difficult. So, and it's not a situation we see often enough where it's kind of easy to kind of predict what to do. I think circumstances change year after year. So, um, I'm curious to see how this one goes.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, let's get into picking them, shall we? How do we do last week? And have you finally calculated how we're doing in general?
No, but I think it's going to be a recurring joke or something. I don't know. I did say I was going to run the roto today and then didn't get a chance to do it. So clearly I'm not on top of my shit, but it's fine. I know that you're still ahead of me, and I'll explain why. You were ahead of me last going into this week. We both picked you to win. You tied. We both picked DBO to win. We were correct. We both picked Andrew to win. We were correct. We both picked Connor to win, or Eric to win. Sorry, we were wrong about that. We both picked Anthony to win, and they tied. Um, and we both picked, or sorry, I picked Yuki to win. I was thankfully wrong, and you picked me to win, so you gained some ground on me there. So I won 2-2-2 on the week. You won 3-1-2, which means you are still ahead of me, and you, my friend, get to pick first, yet again. So, whenever you are ready, make your picks.
All right. So let's start out here. I think I will beat Anthony. I think Ruthvik will beat Connor. I think you will beat Andrew. I think EBO will uh beat Alex and Zach. I think Eric will beat the Drury. And Jake versus Yuki. I want to pick Yuki. I think I'll tie. Just, these two teams are right next to each other in the standings. I think I'll pick the tie here just because you know what we've been saying about Yuki all year.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Okay, that's very fair. All right, I'll pick Ruthvik over Connor. I'll pick you over Anthony. I'm gonna pick Eric over Daniel and Matt. I think from there, I'm gonna pick EBO to beat Alex and Zach. Alex and Zach, I think, could be a little frisky. And they're kind of interesting because a lot of their younger bats are heating up. Churio had a 148 WRC plus in June, and Wyatt Langford's starting to look really good. And obviously Ben Rice, bless his soul, a couple of other guys, right? Rafael Devers has been hitting really well. Um, so they're kind of an interesting team that I wouldn't really count out. Like I think this might be slightly closer than we're thinking it could be, but then it might appear at first glance, but I still think EVO is going to pull out the victory. Um, I'm going to pick Andrew to beat me. I, I said it last week until I absolutely just demolish a team. I'm not there. Um, And I'm gonna pick Yuki to beat Jake. It's I don't want to pick a tie, and I think the fun thing is just to keep picking Yuki. Um, it's fun. It's Yuki. I yeah.
All right. It's fun to pick Yuki. Um, yeah, so that's that. That's our matchups that we're picking. Anything else here before we get into our next segment?
Uh, no. I guess one thing we should probably give a heads up to the listeners is kind of our recording schedule over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that is true. We are gonna be off the next couple weeks. I will be out of town. So we'll miss the long week matchup with with the recap of the one after that. And yeah, after that we'll be right into the stretch, trade deadline season, final stretch. We like getting down the stretch a lot of guests on, especially to talk about how their teams have been. So we got that to look forward to.
Absolutely. I know I am looking forward to it. Always fun to hit the home stretch. I think we're kind of in the part of the season right now where there's still enough season left where a lot can still happen, and I'm not like overly depressed at like, oh God, we're about to hit the off season, and I won't be able to stare at my little iPad and stare at the fantasy cast all day. But also that, it's like shit's really starting to get real. Like, hey, like we're getting close to the finals. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gonna be great. And yeah, we will see you then. But in the meantime, let's um dive in. We'll be back after this break with Eric to do our prospects to watch.
Yep. See you on the other side.
All right, we are back now, and we are joined by Eric for the fourth ever prospects to watch segment. Eric, how are you doing?
Great. How are you guys?
I'm
Pretty
good.
good.
I'm
Um,
excited. I've never been on when you all have done one of these, so I'm excited.
yeah, so basically what we've done in the past, these episodes, usually Sahil in May or something has had law school or work stuff that he's needed to step aside for. So me and Eric have co-hosted an episode together, done the prospect to watch segment. This year, nothing came up for Sahil, and we realized it was, you know, already July and we hadn't done the segment. So we decided to just kind of do it now. I'm excited for it. The way we do it, me and Eric each name three prospects to watch. The first one is um, kind of a top tier guy. For example, last year we had Jackson Holiday and Ali De La Cruz, but top tier prospects who have been just kind of really killing it. Um, our prospect number two is a guy who is owned, but not necessarily like like a top tier guy, kind of maybe a back of the top 100 guy who's also playing really well. Could be someone who can move up. Gavin Williams is an alum of this list. And the third prospect we're naming is a completely unowned guy, a guy that most maybe you've never even heard of, who's really having a great season, maybe going to rocket up some boards. Um, Jake Eder, alumni of this list, got owned at some points. But yeah, prospects to watch. Sahil, any questions from you, the peanut gallery, before we get into it?
No, I don't think so. I'm excited to see what you all have to say.
All right, perfect. Eric, as the guest, do you want to go first?
But in real quick, it's some good news for you, Cam. Reese Hines just homered.
Hey, all right. I have not been watching. That's his third hard hit ball of the day. And he's stolen or he, yeah, got a hustle double. Made a good defensive play. He's having quite the debut.
Nice. All right, for my top guy, I'm gonna be a homer. I'll just go with Jackson Jobe. Um, Top 25 prospect, pretty much any list you look at. Two-way area on the year, just went up to Double A the other day. Struck out 8 in 5 innings, so could be up in the big leagues anytime, probably. So big baller.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's 21 years old, drafted out of high school. He's really been really hit the ground running, especially these last couple of years. Um, yeah, I think he's a great pick. Who owns him in this league? Is it EBO?
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, EBO owns him. He's been traded around quite a bit, but EBO's finally settled on him.
Gotcha. Yeah, it looks like he was sixth overall pick in our 2022 draft. Yeah, no, great pick. Got 202 FIP and a 208 ERA in double A so far. So my first pick is actually a Yuki prospect. It's Carson Williams, shortstop, the Tampa Bay Rays. He's ranked 16th by Fangraphs, and I believe he's top 25 on Clegg's list. Uh, yeah, double A this year, walking at 11.3% rate, 160 WRC plus, 373 on base percentage. He's also got 13 homers, and he's fast too. He's got 22 steals. So he should probably be up pretty soon as well. And he's having quite the season.
awesome. For my owned but lesser known guy, I'm gonna go with Davison De Los Santos, who was on Ruthvik's team. With the Diamondbacks, actually got drafted in the World Five by the Guardians a few months ago, but did not make the team, so he has returned. And he responds to that by leading the minors in homers so far with a 26 in 79 games. The
All
great
right.
OBP, lots of counting stats, could be up anytime.
Yeah. Davis and De Los Santos. Yeah, wow. 26 homers in the minors already. Yeah, I think I may have owned him in Gallardo at one point, and I feel like Sahil maybe was the first one to own him in the Dynasty League. I don't remember though.
Yeah, that's right. I picked him up and dropped him a couple of times. He was like a high like power prospect, but like a high upside, high risk kind of guy. And he kind of dipped for a bit. Like he like spiked, then kind of fell off the map. Then he got drafted in a Rule 5 draft this year, and then that's when I think like he's just been on the upward trajectory since, despite not making the roster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's yeah, uh a great pick for this. My second pick is an Erik prospect. It's Zebby Matthews.
Hey,
He's 24 years old. Um, he's yeah, got 4 starts in high A and 8 starts in double A. He has uh let's look at this. He has walked in these 12 starts, he has walked 4 batters, which is just absolutely stupid. Um, ERA 159 in high A and 189 in double A. FIP of 162 and 2 even in and across those 2 levels. Just really, really tearing it up. He's a 45 um, on Fangraphs. Clegg's moving him up towards the top 50. Baseball America has him at 100 in that 100 spot. He is really having a fantastic season. This is a great pickup for you.
yeah, thanks. Really glad to have him. All
Yeah.
right, for my last one, my obscure known prospect, I'm gonna go with Homer Bush Jr., son of former major
There's
leaguer
a
Homer
Homer Bush
Bush.
Jr. That's awesome.
Yep. I found out about him just because I sorted the minor league stolen base leaders, and he has 40 on the year in 74 games. However, he does not really hit homers. He only has 2 on the year.
2 homers. Yeah, look at that. Padres fourth rounder a few years ago. Yeah, he's not striking out much. He's got 40 steals, 2 homers. Wow. I uh had no idea. He was in double A last year, or he reached double A last year, and he started this season in high A. I guess I don't know. But that is a very fun pick. Homer Bush Jr. I like the original Homer Bush. Uh and anyone named Homer, great name. My third prospect to watch, let me find the name. It's Cooper Ingle. Cooper Ingle is a Guardians catching prospect. He's 22. He was a fourth rounder last year out of Clemson. Um, he's got a 40 FV on Fangraphs. Not in the top 300 on Clegg's list, but he this season is just really showing some great plate discipline. Got a 171 WRC plus in high A. He's striking out only 13.6% of the time and walking the same 13.6% of the time. Just really kind of tearing it up. There's some concern about his defense, um, but he can really hit.
Love that. It's the beauty of this league, right? Doesn't matter how bad you are defensively, as long as you can hit the ball as far as possible or as hard as possible, you're in good shape.
Mm.
I'd be curious, and the Guardians have a pretty interesting history of bat first catchers and having them translate over into legitimate assets. I'm thinking of Carlos Santana, or I guess if you want a more recent example, maybe like a David Fry, um, who kind of plays a little bit all over. So, good call. I like
Well,
that.
yeah. Thank you, Sahil. Have you prepared any prospects to watch?
I did not. Let's see if I haven't prepared any formally, but let's see here if I can think of someone off the top of my head. I did like today the pickup that Erik made, picking up the
Yeah.
password. Yeah, he's been having a really nice season. I actually thought he was owned, otherwise I was gonna pick him up, but he's been having a really nice season. I think he's kind of underrated. One guy I do think has kind of fallen a bit under the radar is Gavin Cross. He was a first round pick in the 2023 draft. Cam, I've kind of mentioned his story to you, but so Conor took him with the 14th overall pick in last year's draft, and he just had an awful season. But the reason he had an awful season was because he caught some like insane like disease. I want to see. Let me Google this quickly to see if I can uh, uh, pull up exactly what it was, but it basically derailed his season. He lost a bunch of weight. Like he just never was able to really get it going. And this year he's starting to perform kind of up to the expectations of like a late first round dynasty pick. And it, he's someone I'm not ready to give up on. I'm kind of curious to see how this develops. I think there's some questions about his swing when he did get drafted, but he was a college draft pick right out of Virginia Tech, so relatively advanced. He's 23, and I wouldn't be surprised if he makes an impact in the majors sooner rather than later. Probably not this year, but maybe towards the end of next year. So, he's someone I certainly have my eye on, and I think it kind of goes to show that prospect development is definitely not linear, and there are a number of reasons why a player might struggle at the beginning. But I mean, Davis and De Los Santos, I think, has been a really good example of that too. I'm curious to see how he develops. I'm certainly rooting for him. He was someone I liked in the draft. Uh, in the 2023 draft. If I didn't trade out of the first round that year, he was definitely on my short list of guys to draft, and I'm excited to see him doing well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gavin Cross not currently owned, but there are, to kind of update a thread from earlier in the season, there are now two owned Royals prospects. They're both catchers, Carter Jensen and Blake Mitchell. So no infielders or outfielders or pitchers.
Breaking
Uh,
news: there's now an
breaking,
outfielder owned.
breaking news, Gavin Cross is now owned. Thank you,
Yeah,
Sahil.
yeah.
Um,
I opened up a prospect spot in that Jared Jones trade that I haven't filled yet, and yeah.
all right, well, now the Royals are tied with the Angels for having three owned prospects,
Hey, good for them.
whereas the Dodgers have 17, which is the most.
Jesus Christ. Um, the Dodger farm system is something else. It's no Oriole farm system, but it's a good one.
It is an interesting farm system. But yeah, Eric, I know you have to run, so thank you for coming on. Anything else you want to talk about here before you head out?
Uh, no, it's disappointing to let first slip out of my grasp, but still a game and a half or just half game back, so I'm excited for the down stretch of the year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, our rivalry matchup could be for the one seed, or depending on how some things go, it could be for the bye. Gonna be very interesting, exciting stretch. There's a lot of teams really really tight.
Well, yeah, that would be wild. And like you said, we keep splitting, so I'm fully expecting you to win that game, but try not to make that happen.
We will see. Yeah, I mean, now that I've kind of said we've split 3 years in a row, this is probably going to be the year that you sweep me. But we will see. You never know. Uh, yeah. Any thoughts on your team in general? I guess to talk briefly about your team, a lot of your like guys that we were, a lot of your pitchers that we were concerned about, like, oh, this guy's iffy. You've really hit on all of them. Like Hunter Green's been great. Tyler Glasnow's been great. Oh wait, no, you don't own Hunter Green. Oh wait, yes, you do. Yeah, Hunter Green's been great. Glasnow, Chris Sale, um, Ronaldo Lopez, Michael King, all of them we were concerned about at the start of the year, and they've all just been fantastic.
Yeah, I gotten really lucky with some pickups, like picked up King towards the end of last year, and then in the off season I picked up Lopez, Heel, and Flaherty, which have all been awesome, and definitely good to have Green kind of breaking out, assuming he can keep this up. But I like what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sahil, any comments on Eric's team or season?
No, I'm annoyed that I picked up Flaherty, caught him a couple days later, and then Erik swooped in. But yeah, I think this has been another master class as a whole this season, and good. Erik management. It's funny to me how he keeps cycling through some of these random outfielders and they're all producing. I think there was the one week you and I talked about Cam where Erik owned like the entire Oakland A's starting outfield.
Man. Yeah, we
And
titled that episode A's in the Outfield.
yeah, A's in the outfield. There you go. And I mean, what? No, Elvy's back now.
He's
So
been
that should
terrible, but yeah.
help. Um, I know Royce Lewis just landed back on the IL. I'm really kind of curious to see how things go with him. But like, I mean, even despite the second base duo here of Lenine Sosa and Jose Caballero, Erik is rolling. And I mean, we talked about some of the pitching pickups too, but like Helio Ramos was a great pickup. Jarred Kelenic's been a great pickup. I mean, we talked about Brent Rooker kind of like Jose Caballero was a pickup. I mean, and some of these guys have been with Erik, if not the whole season, like most of the season. So yeah, I mean, this has been a really good Erik team. I know he's had a couple disappointments the last couple years, finishing well, last year lost in the first round, and the year before that in the semis. Am I correct about that? Didn't
I
win a
think so,
playoff game
yeah.
either year.
I know I lost to Andrew last year and then to Ruth.
You lost to me in the semis the year
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you, I think you had the bye, and lost in the semis if I remember correctly. So you didn't win a playoff. Yeah, I could be wrong about that, but yeah, so I think you're as well set up as anybody to, you know, get to the finals and, you know, win a championship. So I know I beat you the first time in what felt like a playoff matchup. I'm certainly not looking forward to having to play you again, which I know we have a matchup. I want to say it's the second to last week of the season. So um which if that's correct, that would be an absolutely brutal finish for you. But
Yeah, actually, I think my last three are all tough. I gotta bring it up real quick, but yeah, I got Jake, then you, Sahil, then Cam.
oof. Yeah,
That is a tough stretch.
yeah, that is brutal. But that's how you win. I mean, just have to play some of these tough matchups to get to where you want to go.
Who would have thought Jared Kelenic would be doing good on my team of all teams? It's crazy.
Oh my God.
I'm really rooting for like if I don't win the championship, like a UV Cam finals where Kellenic is the matchup MVP. And just like goes absolutely off on Sunday, and that's the reason that you beat Cam would be just the funniest thing. I think that would legitimately break Cam.
Yeah.
That would, yeah, I would hate that.
Man, oh Kellenic.
All right. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Erik. And I guess this is the end of our episode. So thank you, yes, you, the listener, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you soon.
When a problem comes along, you must whip it before the cream sets out too long. You must whip it when something's going wrong. You must whip it. Now whip it into shape. Shape it up. Get straight. Go forward. Move ahead. Try to detect it. It's not too late to whip it. Whip it good. When a good time turns around, you must whip it. You will never live it down.
This podcast is good.